Okay, I'm thrilled to say that I'm joined in the studio by Mihir Magudia, who's a managing director of the Digital Currency Foundation, who pays all of his staff in Bitcoin, and on the line, Jonathan Davis, who's economist and wealth advisor, and a Bitcoin skeptic, I think it's fair to say. Jonathan, before I come to you, I'm going to ask Mihir in the studio, if you wouldn't mind awfully, just explain to us, what is Bitcoin?
Well, it's a currency like any other. It's just like the pound, it's just like the dollar. It's worth what anyone thinks it's worth. The advantages is it's not controlled by government. It's not quantitative eased. It's not manipulated or played with. If you think it's worth £250, then it's worth £250. If someone thinks it's worth £9,000, then that's what it is. It can be sent anywhere in the world for next to nothing. There's no bank in the way. There's no exchange rate in the way. There's no percentage clip here or there. It gives you the opportunity to do business anywhere in the world with anyone you want in the world, and it's free from the old-fashioned constraints of sort of day-to-day countrywide politics.
So frictionless, fast, no messy interference with those old-fashioned things like governments and banks. What's the downside?
What's the downside?
Yeah, what's wrong with Bitcoin? Anything? Can you think of anything?
Well, there are many problems with Bitcoin as an individual currency, but there are thousands of these currencies that exist right now, well over 1,000, and they all have different benefits and problems. Some might say that even Bitcoin, being a relatively cheap way of sending money around the world, is still getting a bit expensive just because so many people are doing it.
Right.
But there's any number of other coins that can fill that need for you. It's a bit of code on the internet. It can do all sorts of different things.
And do you think that there's going to come a time, inevitably in our lives, where cryptocurrencies are so widely used that they actually replace hard currencies like the yuan and the sterling and the dollar and all the rest of it? You think this is inevitable?
I do, actually. I think that especially in countries that have very, very volatile national currencies, where something like stability is not the status quo, in countries that have trouble for people who want to send money from one state to another. There are many states in Africa that are very, very excited about Bitcoin because even through its volatility, that's not something they're unused to.
Just explain what role Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies play in your day-to-day life, practically speaking. So you're managing director of the Digital Currency Foundation. Do you pay your staff in Bitcoin? Are they sort of happy to be paid in Bitcoin? Do you buy food in Bitcoin? What do you actually do with it?
Well, it's a means of transmitting value. It's a currency like any other. You can load it onto debit cards. You can spend it anywhere that a MasterCard or a Visa is accepted. You can pay people in it, and we do pay people in it. And I remember last year we had some staff and we gave them a Bitcoin bonus. Some of them sold it immediately for, I think, about £700 or whatever it was at the time. And some had no idea what to do. And so they've just kept it in their digital currency wallets, and now they're very, very, very pleased with the world. And some have held on to it like that, some spent it, some helped with Christmas presents. It's a store of value like anything else.
So Jonathan Davis, economist and wealth advisor, this sounds utopian and glorious, doesn't it? It sounds wonderful. It's cheap, it's fast. Lots of people are happy to get paid in Bitcoin, and also, if Mihir's right, it's inevitable that we're all going to eventually succumb to the temptation to use cryptocurrencies rather than hard cash.
In the long term, the Bitcoin or cryptocurrency aficionados are probably right, but it's still too young a market to be sure as to what's going to happen. And, if the idea here is, should we invest in Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency, one of the thousands, as he says, just now, it's fascinating that we're having this conversation just now, because literally since yesterday, this is how volatile these things are, the major cryptocurrencies are down, I'm looking at the charts, between 15 and 30% since yesterday. Two of the bright stars, Litecoin and Ripple, which were massively pushed by the media and the Bitcoin people in December, are down 50-60%. Having said that, as you said, were you an owner at the beginning of last year, then you've made 1,000% or more over the last year. So my point is, anything which has made 1,000% in a year, I would question if now is the time to get involved, especially when you see such problem happening in the markets literally as we speak.
That just maybe,
in the long
Jonathan,
term, yes, who knows? This is the thing. We don't know what's going to happen in the longer term.
Sure, forget, of course, which is why we have economists and futurologists that spend a huge amount of money and often make a huge amount of money telling us what is going to happen in the long term, though if they're humble enough, they, like you say, they don't necessarily know. But that's what you say addresses the point as an investor, and as you say, over the past year, investors in particular cryptocurrencies are well up. Can we come to distinguish between investment decisions and the social consequences of cryptocurrency replacing hard cash? What are the, as you see, inherent dangers in social acceptance, or more broadly, a society and an economy taking up cryptocurrencies? And what are the inherent dangers in turning money from hard cash into something that can be exchanged in a frictionless digital fashion?
Well, the big picture, Amol, is that governments all around the world want to ban cash anyway. In India, they've banned cash. In Switzerland, you can't get 500 euro notes, something else in Mexico. It's happening gradually, bit by bit, pardon the pun. So in due course, they will ban cash. And why will they want to ban cash? And this is, unfortunately, one of the things we're going to have to get used to. Governments will know everything about us in due course. So the idealistic view of the cryptos is that if everything is not just digital but also anonymous, then governments don't get to know what we're up to. And let's face it, we like our privacy, except of course when we go on Facebook, which always confuses me, but there we go. The problem with that, though, is governments can control cryptocurrency. I know they say that they can't, but they can. They can ban it. They can stop it being traded. It's being discussed in Korea. It's being discussed in China. So the downsides are that all of the upsides that they talk about will not actually happen.
Indeed, and the governments could end up taking far too much control.
My colleague there didn't mention, and he should have mentioned.
Jonathan, forgive me, I want to go to the phone calls because I want lots of listening responses to this. It's worth saying, of course, which I know you would have addressed had we had more time, that in India, the banning of the lower denominations was an attempt to get rid of the underground economy, and there was lots of controversy as to whether or not they affected poor people in particular. Jonathan Davis is an economist, thank you very much indeed, and Mihir Magoudi have made a very strong case, which I think might have persuaded some of our listeners, Managing Director of the Digital Currency Foundation.